What if your manuscript had to get approved by the Pentagon before it got printed? Well, that is exactly what happened to today's guest, Larry Colby. He's an aviation thriller author, former private client, and somebody that I have so much respect for. When Larry and I first met and started working together, he was still in the military, juggling his full-time military job and also carving out time to start writing, along with being a really good dad and a really good husband. Now he's written a whole series of thrillers, become an Amazon bestseller multiple times, and he still continues to write. In this episode, we're going to talk about the writing habits that have kept him going, how he has dealt with the little delay from the Department of Defense, and how he has used that strategy to actually keep writing the next one and the next one. And he also shares a secret tip on how he doesn't have a whole lot of time, but he uses time like sitting in traffic to actually continue writing. So whether you're staring at a blank Google Doc or you're halfway through your first draft, Larry's story is going to show you that yes, writing a really good book is possible, even if you have a full plate. Larry, welcome to the show. This is so exciting for me. One, I haven't seen you in so long. I mean, we text, back
Yes,
and forth
yes,
every once in a while, but would you just introduce yourself to my audience? Who is Larry Colby, the
sure.
author?
Well,
My
it's wonderful to
God.
be here. Great to see you again, LA. Thanks so much. Well, I'm a 20 plus year veteran of the Defense Department and the intelligence community. I started out my career as a combat pilot in the Marine Corps. I had the opportunity to fly Cobras. Then I did an inter-service transfer to the Air Force. I was able to fly C-130s. Then I had another opportunity for about 12 years to serve as a civilian intelligence officer. And I'm also very lucky to be a novelist. I write military thrillers and 4 novels out. 3 of them went to #1 on Amazon. And so I've had a terrific career, and I'd love to share more with you today.
Yeah, congratulations. You and I met at a leadership immersive training program, and you were one of my clients. That was either you picked me or you were assigned to me. I'm not sure what it was, but that's where we first met. And I remember, like, you're like, I'm writing a book.
I sure was. And I remember you back, that's probably 10 years ago. And we stayed in contact because I'm very big into always learning more. And just because I'm in leadership development or the rank of colonel doesn't mean I know everything. And so I was open and willing to learn from you, and we've stayed in contact ever since.
Yeah. But I remember at that conference, you know, we were sitting in the hallway, like your coaching session was beginning, and you're like, I'm writing this book,
Mhm.
and I'm like, oh, you should make it an Amazon bestseller. And I'm just like, I remember us going into one of the rooms that wasn't being used, taping up on the wall, one of those big giant pieces of paper and like outline, like, this is how I made my book Amazon bestseller. And just sharing this with you. And you just like, yep, all right, I'll take that. You folded it up and like, we were done our coaching session
I
on
still have it. Yes.
good.
Yes.
And I do remember when you shot me a text saying, I released my book and it was an Amazon bestseller. And I was like, how'd
Mhm.
you do it? You're like, I did everything you said to do. And
Yes.
that made me so excited because it worked for me. And I was like, I don't know if it will work for other people. And that
Mhm.
was that was such awesome confirmation. But let's go back to you being the writer.
Sure.
First off, you're in the military. And then towards the like, where did this "I wanna be a writer" come from?
Sure. So I think the foundation is from being an avid reader as a child. I loved the Hardy Boys young adult books. And if your listeners are not familiar with Hardy Boys, it's just a terrific set of books where 2 brothers go out and solve crimes. They solve mysteries. And I think that that was the beginning of it. And as time went on, I wound up reading about 100 books a year. I read about 2 books a week. And
God, are you like a speed reader?
sometimes I am. It depends on what the subject matter is. M- But that alludes into writing magazine articles. And then that alludes to, wow, I would really like to write, but I don't have the time. So how can I maximize my time to do this? It means getting up at 4 in the morning and writing 1 or 2 pages a day, every day for about a year. And then after a year, you have 300 plus page novel on your hand.
I remember when you told me that
Hmm?
at the leadership conference. I was so impressed with your dedication to, I want to write this book, but I also want to be a good dad. I want to be a good husband, and I have to do this. Yeah, just like you
Yes.
said, I have to get up an hour early
Mhm.
before anybody else in the house gets up so that I can spend time with them also.
Absolutely correct. And it still exists today. It's great quiet time. And other people probably get up early and they work out, they ride bikes, they train for marathons. When I'm writing, I write. And sometimes it's more than a page or two. It could be 10 pages, like maximizing my time on a weekend. But I think the self discipline portion of being an author is very important.
Yes, 100%. So you've got this idea for a book, and this is what I've been talking about in this book writing series. But I'm curious with yours because they are fiction. Like, do you almost mentally or write down on paper, like map out the story, or like how does that end up flowing once you start actually writing?
So I like to outline it first. I'll start with the end in mind and work backwards. Some other techniques that I use, leveraged from Disney, is called storyboarding. Well, I'll actually sketch something out, or I will write a quick prompt and put it as a sticky onto the wall. And I'm able to move the stickies around to fit the story that I'm looking for. I absolutely leverage my background.
Yeah.
I don't always use it in marketing with photographs because I'm sensitive to me being in uniform, but I'll definitely leverage my experiences in both the intelligence community and in the cockpit. And I like to think that I provide some authenticity to the reader.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, 20 years of it.
Thank you.
How did you come up with this story? Now, I also know that there's a series of your story. So it doesn't just end with one book. It goes
Mhm.
on.
Yeah. So I love to leverage real world observations into my stories. And I find characters in my personal life, professional life, and things that I see. And specifically, it could be a neighbor, it could be someone at the airport, it could be someone at the train station, the way that they look, the way that they talk, the way that they act. And then, second, I leverage current events. I pluck out maybe emerging technologies in drones or AI, and I merge them together like a Venn diagram. And then I add those things into my outline, and that's how I create a rough story.
Nice. So what do you do when you get writer's block, or do you just not get writer's block?
I don't get writer's block. I never
Get
get it.
out.
Zero. What I have a problem with is running out of time. I will be on page 3 and I've got to clock out of writing and get to work or get prepared to drive to the office. And I run out of time at just the right moment. But I'll share with you and your listeners that I won't stop there. I'll actually talk into my phone and I'll leverage a recording and I will continue with the idea and then I'll convert the audio recording to text.
Okay, what you don't know is that some of the episodes that are coming out this month or have already come out this month, one I talked about writing with the end in mind. Because both of my books, I don't know if you know this, but I wrote the last chapter first.
I
And
had
then,
heard that. Yes.
yeah, because I
Yes.
want to know, like, where do I want this book to end?
Mhm.
Then I'll go back to the beginning. And sometimes I do have to do a little bit of editing for that last chapter. But it's like now I know like the path that I have to take. So that's really interesting.
And sometimes mine changes. I will see something, experience something, conversations, and I'll tweak the ending a little bit. The problem is if you forget to back up from the ending and something happened in an earlier chapter. And I will share with you and the listeners that I've made that mistake. And luckily an editor will catch it. Specifically, I had a character jump out of an airplane. And then in another chapter, he was back in the airplane
Okay.
just because I forget what happened. and
Yeah,
someone is
exactly.
there to help me and catch me.
Exactly. I had an editor for a really good editor, I thought, for my first book. For no, excuse me, this was for my second book. And she was editing it as we were going along. And then she was like, now I have to go back and read it from beginning to end all at once
Yes. Yes.
to, excuse me, to catch those things. And my second book had characters in it, just like yours do. I mean, do you have a list of all the characters and who they are and what they do? And
I do, and sometimes I'll change their names at the last minute. Sometimes I'm sold on a character name that appears in all three books in the series, and I just stick with it. Um, the names are super important to me, but more important than that is the character development, how I describe the character, how they interact, and the story. Um, it was described to me that the movie, the Titanic, isn't about the ship. It's about Jack and Rose.
Mhm.
And I've never forgotten that. And I use that in my mind. It's about the development of the characters and the story more than anything else, even more important than the airplanes that I feature.
Yeah, that's interesting. So tell me about what it was like when you hit enter, like it's published, it's done.
I often laugh and say, okay, now what? Now you have a small celebration, and then what do you do with it? And that is where the marketing portion comes into play. And for me, I was able to leverage the veteran community. They were
Mhm.
very kind to me in purchasing my books and continue to do so. And that was a group of folks, family, because I've lived the life. They were able to take my books and recommend it by word of mouth and help me on my way. And I recommend to writers all the time that they can get attached to some type of an organization so that that word of mouth travels. Because although you are done with the book writing portion, that's just really the beginning.
Yeah, that's so true. So talk to me about what marketing you were doing after, like, look, if we can go back to your first book and maybe you could
Sure.
compare how your marketing has changed since then.
Well, I didn't have any money for marketing
Hmm.
is the first thing. And so what I would do is do podcasts to
Hmm.
help out others. And in return, it would be advertising. Articles would be written in publications in the veteran community because they needed content. Public speaking at different events. The organizations needed speakers. And so I'm able to come and speak about leadership or about flying. And in return, I have a book. And so things like that help out everyone. And it certainly helped my name get around the Washington, D.C. writer's circle as a veteran who is authentic from the cockpit. And it's worked out great.
Oh, that's so awesome. But here we are talking about like the book's been published, and I realize like there's a big step in your book writing journey that most people are not ever going to have to deal with. Certainly, I didn't have to deal with this, and I did all self-publishing and you've done all self-publishing because it's like, why do I have to wait for somebody else to give me an approval that it's okay for you to, put this book out there? I'm just going, that's why I self-published. I get to do it on my timeline, but you did that on your timeline. However, you had a very interesting organization that had to actually give you approval.
That's
I think
right.
we need to talk about this. Go for it.
So every veteran who has a certain level of security clearance, myself, I have a top secret and above, um, with some compartments. And what that means is I'm read into a certain level of national security information. And when I write and publish, my writings have to be approved by the Pentagon. And that is ethically the right thing to do because of the obligation that I have. Not only have I lived that experience, but I've signed the paperwork that obligates myself to have approval. And so my manuscript goes into the Pentagon. It's taken as little as 3 weeks to review one of my books and as long as 18 months. And so it's very difficult to sit around and wait for the approval process to come in. Even when it comes in, though, it comes back with edits. And folks at the Pentagon will often say, you're not allowed to say this aircraft has this capability at this location, or your characters are having this conversation about this certain subject. And they'll tell me to edit before I'm able to publish. And although I'll do it out of a sense of legal obligation, I don't like it. And the reason is because it slows me down. I essentially have to wait for them to get through their bureaucratic process so that I can release the book. And so you can imagine a timeline being built. I really can't put out a date to publicize because it's not approved yet. And so I've got to wait.
I didn't even think of that particular obstacle. But so how do you stay motivated, inspired, not get discouraged because your book has to go through the Pentagon? And I think to answer that question is, how long did it take to go through the Pentagon for your first book?
That was maybe 12 months for the first one.
Still a long time.
It is. And so the way I get around that in my mind is I start writing the second one. I don't wait around. I never let the grass grow under my feet. And it works to my advantage because I have another year of life experiences. And so I was able to travel through work to a variety of foreign countries, and those experiences to places like India provided the information for me to write the second book. And so I make it work. And unless you've visited someplace like India, you really can't write about it unless you've visited. And so that provides the authenticity to my books because I've been to some of these places. The example I'm giving for India, I've been multiple times. It's not just one visit. And so I insert that into the novel.
Wow, but I love that, you're not waiting around. I'm just gonna start the next book. And when the Pentagon sends me like, okay, here's your manuscript back, and like it's got all these red marks. It's like, go redo these sections. It's like, wow, I'm just in awe of you just like staying interested in the goal.
Thank you. So I think that everybody could do it. And maybe for me and you, it's writing and speaking, but people who are really dedicated to a craft, a trade craft, they will find ways to make it happen. And I have a neighborhood full of folks that are runners. I see them running by at 4 in the morning. They're dedicated to running. Maybe in mind, a goal could be a triathlon or a marathon. I think anybody's dedicated to that passion, they accomplish it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's so true. But I do think human beings are easily distracted and discouraged, especially if you're writing your first book.
Yes, that's possible. I think in the how to write a books, if you were to leverage a checklist, a book like that, it is a tremendous help on just following others who have done it before us because they've been successful. You can use that as an outline on how to write your own book for a listener.
That's true. So anybody who has got some sort of an obstacle, yours
Mhm.
may not be the Pentagon, but it may be, just some sort of life event is happening in your own personal life. Just to remember, Larry, you had to go through the Pentagon. You don't have to go through the Pentagon for your self-help book. So
Right.
get out there and continue writing. But I do really like the fact you're just like, all right, I'll just start on my next book. Start on my next book. And like so far you've got 4 book.
I
4.
I do 4 books published, and I'm working on a screenplay for my next event. And
All right, why a screenplay?
well, I'm very lucky to link up with Alphonse Ruggiero Jr., who has written Miami Vice, Wise Guy, Airwolf, a variety of TV shows and movies. And he and I are putting together something, and it'll come, I'm sure, released into the public eye in the coming months. But
Ooh,
big things happening.
that sounds like fun. I hope I get a text before it's
Promise.
happening.
I promise I will.
Okay. So since we're all about book writing and like this month has, I'm just trying to encourage people because there's so many people who say, yeah, I really want to write a book, but they actually never get around to writing the book. What are some of your tips besides, like you woke up at 4 a.m., like you had a schedule. Like, this is just my writing time. Besides having a writing time that may be convenient or inconvenient to your regular life, like, what else do you have?
So I realized my time was so short when I was stuck behind a presidential motorcade about 10 years ago here in Washington. There was no way I could get around it. And I felt that my time was being wasted. There's no other way to say it. And so I took out my phone and started recording what I saw on the motorcade, specifically the details about the DC Metro motorcycle police, then the Secret Service, then the limousines. And the fact that I could see real world operations in front of me while was stuck in traffic, I was able to leverage my time and I was able to use that situation into one of my books. And so I'm constantly taking notes on a piece of paper in my pocket or into a notebook or into my phone, to the notes section. And I don't waste any time. Everything is a terrific learning experience. And then I will take that weekend or that 1 hour in the morning and consolidate the notes into something useful.
That is so helpful. And it also reminds me of like my second book. I had heard of people who dictated their books, but, like mine being a modern day parable, it was somewhat hard, but I did dictate my second book, like, and this is before like Otter and all these other transcription services. I actually had to have a human being actually
Mhm.
transcribe it, my audio files, and then I would have to go back through it. And I only did that because not because of time, but more because of I wanted to have the experience of my first book I actually physically wrote. And my second book I dictated so that I could, see which method I actually
Mhm.
really liked. But what I'm so fascinated with what you did is, you know, I don't have a whole lot of time, and this is so important to me. So I will find the time, and you just sitting in a car
Yes, I
watching.
would, Ellie, I would also add that I didn't know what I was doing. Right? Early on, all of us have stories to tell. Because I'm an observer of people and I'm collecting all this information, doesn't mean that it's in the proper story format. And so I leveraged books like Stephen Pressfield and Stephen King, who has a terrific nonfiction book called On Writing. It's his only one. And
It is so good.
I read those or I purchase the book on tape and I'm able to listen to the book while I'm driving. And I'm not going to waste any time there either because folks like that, and even Lee Child, they have done a ton of books, a plethora of information that they've worked out into a terrific set of stories, excellent movies, and I could leverage some of their experiences. And all of your listeners, of course, could as well.
Yeah, that's so valuable. What about the covers? The covers of your books. I mean, do you now after like putting out 4 books, do you just have the same person who's like, "Hey,
I
got
do.
another one?"
I do. And so that's probably um, what I would say the longest portion of the marketing decision. I don't do it in the beginning. I do it about 3/4 of the way through because I might work something into the story that's on the cover that I see. And there are a variety of artists that have dozens and dozens of book covers on websites, and you can just pick and choose your own cover. Maybe it involves a building exploding or a firearm, an aircraft. In my case, one of them is an aircraft flying over an aircraft carrier. And so I work that into the story. And my covers are closely aligned with the book prior. And so it looks like a series when I put out the marketing.
Very nice. Very nice. Yeah, and your books are very well done. I've got several autographed copies on my
Thank you.
bookshelf. As a matter of fact, I usually make that mandatory.
Thank
Tell
you.
me where to
Y-
tell me where to get your book, but I want to make sure it's signed.
Mhm.
Yeah, because it's a lot of fun. Before you came out with your first book, it's like I want to write. And what did that feel like when you had the copy in your hand?
It's a terrific feeling to know that I've accomplished something that I worked really hard towards.
Yeah.
You really don't know if it's going to sell.
Mm,
And I didn't care if it didn't. I
yeah.
wrote for the sake of me telling stories. And that was what was important to me. I'm very lucky that it took off all the books that they did, but I would have been okay if they didn't, because you don't write to sell. At least to me, you write to tell a story and you hope that others would like it.
Oh, that is so true. I've never thought about it until you just said it. But my first book, I mean, the whole reason why I wrote it was for my audience, so that they had something to take away after hearing me speak because I can't tell them everything that I know.
Mhm.
And my second book, I came out with because I got an email after speaking from, and everybody in the audience got a copy of my first book. And somebody sent me an email saying, oh my God, like I read this and it's completely changed the way that I look at things, the way that I do things.
Mhm.
And that's what got me to write, to finish my second book. I was like, I owe it to my audience. But I never ever thought about like, is this going to be a big hit? Is this going to work?
Right. I I didn't know either, and I still don't. And I never write based upon what I see in current events. I write based upon all the experiences that I've shared with you already. I think what's important to me in my writing is that I show the human side of the characters, the real risk that goes into flying, even a training mission on a beautiful day with blue skies. There's an inherent risk to flying. And I try to bring that out through the human emotions. It's not that the military members have all this figured out. They don't. I think that the more human emotion that I can provide into the story, into the characters, the more that the reader relates.
Yeah, you're taking in your writing or even in speaking, you're taking your audience, your reader on an experience, the roller coaster ride, the ups, the downs, the
Mhm.
plateaus. That's what people
Yes.
want. They want to feel something.
Yes. Yes. And I do follow the hero's journey. It's been around for 2,000 years since the Greeks invented it. And we know it in modern novels such as Star Wars or Harry Potter. And that arc, that story arc, is something that I follow. And my all my characters struggle with something, but at the end of the day, they do accomplish whatever the goal is that they're fighting.
It's so interesting. Last month was all about storytelling, and I had Adam Olin on, like, and
Yes.
we were talking about storytelling. And so, like, as you're talking about this, I'm envisioning him saying the before and the after, there has to be like this big gap. So, has your character development skills changed? Like, I mean, you've written 4 books, that's 4 sets of characters. Like, how has it changed from your very first book?
They have. So their dialogue has changed. They've grown in experience, wisdom, and rank. They've
Mhm.
flown different aircraft. They've lost people along the way. I won't disclose anything to your readers, but
Yeah.
certainly sometimes you have to kill your darlings. Things happen, just like in
Wow.
real life, change. And it's how my characters adapt to change over time.
Yeah. It's I also tell people, and I remember sharing this with a friend because like my first book, I mean, it's a cute story. It's a good
Hmm.
story, like, but it was also my first book. There was a huge difference in the quality of my writing from my first book to my second book. It's like just get the first one done. I think it was the founder of LinkedIn who said, if you're not embarrassed by your first prototype, you waited too long.
That's great. And yes, I would say from my first book to my fourth book, I have absolutely changed in my writing. It improves because the skill is being practiced. And
Yes.
like in anything we ever do, the more you practice, the better you get.
Yes, 100%.
Mhm.
I mean, it's the same thing in speaking. I mean, yes, I still get butterflies every time I step onto a stage, but if it's been like weeks or a couple of months
Mhm.
since I've gotten in front of an audience, like, yeah, you almost feel a little rusty
Yes.
until you get the gears moving. But it's a skill. I mean, a lot of times people can't believe that you're a shy, before and painfully shy girl. It always makes people I'm like, yes, I am. I
Mhm.
just taught my nervous system a new trick.
Yes.
And I just keep practicing this skill. I mean, this whole podcast, this is my one of my stages.
Mhm.
And it's a way for me to, granted, most of it is audio, but it gives me a chance to actually practice with my voice. I really try to change the pace of my voice because, and the pauses and the fluctuation and the speed, like all that stuff, because one, I've been working with a speech coach who's helping me improve all this. But if somebody's only listening to the audio on like 1.5 or 2 speed, like they have to hear that pattern interrupt to keep them interested.
Yes. Nothing changes from practice in any endeavor that we have. For me, um, developing that character by handwritten and then typing it out is the practice and rehearsal that I use. And it's really no different than what you just described.
What do you mean rehearsal?
Well, when I'm sure that you rehearse before you take the stage.
Yes.
I do the same. When we fly, we do the same. We rehearse the flight prior to the flight. In my mind, I'm thinking in pictures for that scene, for that chapter. I'm rehearsing it in my mind before I write it. I'm kind of thinking, what is the character going to do here before they do it? And I go, oh no, delete. And then I'll expand on my idea a little bit more.
Oh, I love that. Thank you for sharing that. That
Mhm,
is a gold tip.
mhm.
Huge, huge gold to be able to see and envision it beforehand before you're actually writing it out, typing it out. I think the same thing for anybody who's, whether you're writing a story or a how-to book, it's just like, how do you see this evolving for whoever is reading this?
Yes. And that is probably the biggest difference that I've found between writing fiction and writing a screenplay. With the screenplay, I'm relying on the director to provide the visuals. But when I write novels, I'm the one that's providing the detail so that the reader can interpret in their own mind what the visuals may be.
Yeah. Yes. It's always going to become whatever the reader needs it to be.
Mhm.
Which is the whole reason why my first book was non-gender. Well, it's part of the reason. I was way ahead of my time. Didn't even realize it. All right. So for everybody who's listening who wants to write a book and they haven't written their first book, what are some tips that you would give them besides like just go do it? What can the listener walk away with and be like, okay, this is what I'm going to do exactly what Larry tells me to do?
First thing, you have to be an avid reader. Someone in your audience should probably be reading a lot or watching a lot of movies if they're going to be a screenplay writer. But let's just stick with storytelling in the written form as a book author. I would not only read a lot, but I would choose a genre. I would say to myself, okay, I'm going to be mystery or thriller or even nonfiction if someone wanted to go that route and just like yourself and be a subject matter expert on a certain subject. I do think that's important because I'm writing about what I know about. Someone else might want to write romance or something else that they really are passionate about. And you've got to be knowledgeable in the subject and be passionate about it in order for it to be authentic on the pages. I think
Mm.
if I was to write um, romance or comedy, it just wouldn't come off as well as someone else who might be in and have more passion than I do. But because I've worn the cloth, the flight suit, I'm able to work that in. And I think that the readers enjoy that.
I love that. Thank you so much. All right. So read a lot
Mhm.
to one genre that you want to be known for.
Sure. So LA, a great way for budding authors to perhaps get their name out there and something they recently published is leveraging things like your alumni network, your college quarterly or maybe annual newsletter that gives updates on alumni, maybe your town newspaper where a reporter is looking to feature somebody in the community. And that way it helps out your college because they're proud of their alum, or it helps out somebody in the community like, wow, here's my neighbor is publishing a book and I can do that too. And it doesn't cost anyone anything. And they're always looking for content and you're able to provide that.
That is such like guerrilla marketing, like marketing on a shoestring budget. It doesn't even cost you anything. I mean, it's such a way to help somebody else out. And in turn, you're just letting other people know about your book. And that's the whole point, is that other people will read your book.
I think in the year 2025, we should probably insert keywords, because Amazon.com, where our books are published, is really a search engine. And the words that we use to describe our books in the marketing portion are very, very important, because someone who's looking to read without knowing the author's name or the title can research by subject matter words. The search engine optimization that we use is very important to find your book, the needle in the haystack, really. And so the way you describe your book in Amazon is of the utmost importance.
Oh, wow. I never even thought about that. It has been a little while since I published a book. I need to come out with a new one, either way. But that is so key. Like there's your title, your subtitle, but you're
Mhm,
right, that description, and
mhm.
now that Apple is transcribing people's podcasts, like Google's able to search that,
Yes,
or to provide so we really do need to be a little bit more conscientious about the words that we use to describe things, and that is a great, great marketing,
yes.
another gold nugget.
I would also leave my last nugget with you, which is Goodreads. Goodreads.com is part of Amazon. And that's really what I like to laugh and say, those are where the professional readers are. And they are very serious at Goodreads.com about their books and their authors and their likes and their reviews. And the content that the author provides there is just as important as Amazon.com. I treasure Goodreads. I'm on there all the time, and it's a constant updating of words and descriptions to see what works to optimize my books.
Oh, that is so fascinating. I love that. That's where the professional readers hang out.
Yes, yes.
And then anything else?
I would look at the how-to books, and I'm not going to. Hopefully, I don't insult anybody when I say this, but there's great dummies series on any variety of subjects. They have dummy series for writing, but they also have the Stephen King, the Stephen Pressfield uh, books on structure, how to structure a novel. The art of that writing is just as important as your story, on how to set up act one, act two, act three.
Yeah.
It's things that many people have forgotten about from English class back in middle school or in high school. That's important.
Yes. Yes. But I think that Stephen King's book on writing
Yes.
is so valuable. I've listened to that several times. It's such a great story to hear how somebody who is so well known in writing now, but how he started out. I mean, my favorite scene in that book when he's telling his story is when his agent called him about Carrie and like told him how much he was going to get paid, and he was like, "Can you say that again?" Like,
Yes. I remember.
what, like $600, and it
Mhm.
was like $60,000.
Yes.
Can you spell it out for me?
Mhm.
He was just so like, what?
Yes.
He just does
Yes.
such a wonderful job. But him, just like you have this schedule. And I really do want to highlight that it's not only the I got up early, but it's like you got up and you started writing from like 4 to 5. You have
Mhm.
your hour. But I think you also, after you do that for a while, you're literally training your nervous system, training your body. Like, this is writing time. It's not time to daydream. It's not time to go running. It's just like you just teach yourself. It's hands on the keyboard.
It is. And I think that I couldn't really go any further without mentioning family and being supportive, because when dad goes to bed at 8 p.m. and the sun is still up, it's just setting, and the rest of the family is still going, they respect that. And when I'm up at 4 and they're not getting up till 6 or 7 or 5 or whatever it may be for that day, they're respecting they overlap. If I'm still writing and the door is shut, that they're okay with that.
Nice. And that's just teaching other people what you need too. And I can only imagine like the role model you are being for your children also. I think it would be valuable just to touch on that a little bit too, is that they see you working on your dream, your goal. That is going to be so valuable. Even like as your spouse to see like you're working on something that is so important to you. Like, how can I help you?
Yes, and my wife and I often invite over squadron mates or folks from the intelligence community that I've worked with and have flown with, and they come over to the house regularly. And my children are able to listen and participate and hear all of our stories and laugh and hear all the fun times that we've had. And sometimes that brings out something new that I can work into the next novel.
Aw, that's so awesome. So we have spent this entire episode talking about you writing books, but we haven't even mentioned the actual books. Are we allowed to mention them?
We sure can.
Yes, please go.
And so I've got the Ford Stevens military thriller series, 3 books, all feature one pilot called Ford Stevens, my main character. And then my fourth book, a standalone, is called Target Area, which is a wonderful book about espionage, a general that disappears out of the Pentagon, and a massive manhunt in Washington, D.C. by 2 federal agents that are on the hunt for where he may be. 4 novels, and I appreciate you asking. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So I'm going to make sure that all of that information is linked down below. But Larry, can you share with people where they can follow you, learn more about you? I will have the books, make sure that they're down in the show notes. But
I sure would. I'd love to. I'm on author LA Colby. That's my website. I'm also on social media with X, Instagram, and Facebook, Colby.
thank you so much. Larry, I can hardly wait for this screenplay. And just to like, I've just been like following you with your career. And so I can only imagine what is going to be next after the screenplay, unless you already know and want to tell me
Secret.
the secret. Yes, I love it. It goes just along with all of your books and the espionage. And I got to send my book to the Pentagon.
Yes, secret.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thanks, LA. Thank you.
Wow. I don't know about you, but I just loved this conversation with Larry. I was so glad that he agreed to come onto the show. What I hope that you're walking away with is that you don't have to quit your day job to get your book deal, that you can get your book done. You just need a clear message, a repeatable process, and the right kind of support, and honoring your schedule. So if Larry's story lit a fire under you and you are ready to use a book to showcase your expertise, and you want to have a book that you sell in the back of the room or that will separate you apart from all the other people who are pitching this particular event organizer to get booked, then I want you to book a call with me. Head on over to speakandstandout.com/speaker-success, and that link will be down below. We will map out what your book could look like, how it will grow your authority, and how we can actually get it done, even if you have a busy schedule, because your story in print and on stage needs to be shared. So until next week, be in demand.